Should I have done that?
Oh, you're fine. You're on speaker now. We can all hear you.
Okay.
All right.
Can you see me?
No, we send your webcam.
Okay, webcam. Can you see it now?
Yep, we can see you, George. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
And this is the pollution policy that they need to. Okay, is this the one for Matt? Does he have one? Wasn't that what this was? Was there a facilities request in there? No, I think he said he was gonna have, or you were gonna send it to him in that email. Trevor, how do I get to my mailbox? Oh,
And then if it's under inbox.
oh my gosh, I can't see anything. That was on here.
Oh, yeah.
Can you email?
Yeah. Well, I don't think I can.
Okay,
I
no,
feel
that's
like I
fine.
might have.
So maybe he'll hand it to me then.
Maybe I don't know.
Okay. No, it's. So that's recording. Isn't-
Am I too loud?
Nope, you were good, George.
Okay.
I just want to make sure I didn't touch anything. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, just one copy, but that's all I need. So do you need them to sign that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I presented everything, I'm just completely here.
Get it back to you? Yep.
Probably just at the end of the week, so I get it published.
Oh, I'll get them today and make sure I get it over to you.
Really need some direction about what those pools will look like, but at least I can get the template. And then we can get moving in the right direction.
Is
this a new program that we're using to get the faces of people?
No, it's the same go to webinar. It's just we added him as an organizer so we can actually see him and hear him now. He's waving at you. So now we actually know how to use a little better now.
That's so funny.
And now we can all be jealous that he's at the beach.
I know. Candy said he could hear the she could hear the waves crashing this morning.
Yes, yep, yes, yes.
Met with the ordinance, since he's not in the room, it's a voice vote for everything.
Should still be,
Yeah, should be, it's a roll call vote.
No, we don't have to do a roll call vote.
I think you do,
I
was
think
my
you do, yeah.
understanding.
even though we can see him, just. That's my understanding. But he is officially at the meeting because we can see, as opposed to before when it's just been.
Couldn't count it.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Tuesday, September 6th Commissioner meeting. We'll start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on the agenda today is our County Attorney, Matt Shipman.
All the things I have to talk about today are on the agenda further, so as we kind of get to them, I can go through them. I think that's probably makes the most sense.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is Cindy Doolittle for polling location approval.
It'll be really short today. I just need to get the election, the polling locations like the newspaper. I believe you have that in your handout. And I just need a signed copy so I can get it in the newspaper pretty quick.
It appears nothing's changed from,
Nothing's changed.
okay.
We don't really have election places, you know.
Sure.
Yep, and I'll make sure you get it back.
I have no questions or issues with it.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve the voting locations for the general election.
I have a motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. We'll do a voice vote, starting with Commissioner Basinger,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrumpf,
Aye.
and I am an aye as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy. Thank you.
Leslie Blakley.
I'm here presenting on behalf of Whitley County Council on Aging, Whitley County Transit, to submit for discussion and for signature our request for reimbursement from Indiana Department of Transportation. This obviously comes to the commissioners on its way to us. Of the remaining $325,000 that has been set aside for Whitley County Transit, we are requesting a voucher here for $121,907. That takes into consideration our $27,929 local match funds that our organization put forth toward that. So I have that for review and signature. It does need to be signed in blue ink, so I'll pass that along. And I have a couple of sets of handouts as well. Just some information on what our organization has been doing. The top handout is specific to transit, just giving you our month-end figures for the month of August. The second page is in regards to our nutrition program as well, which is a major component that Whitley County Council on Aging provides to seniors in Whitley County. So just wanted to give you a little bit of update about how things are going for us. Last Friday, we held our annual senior fair and it went very well. It was the first fair that we've been able to hold in person since 2019. And so it was really nice to get everyone back together. So.
Good. Thank you for the update.
I know the last time you were here, I feel like for the last 2 years, there have been some vehicles on order. Do we have those yet?
No.
Okay, no.
At this point, we honestly aren't sure that we will get them.
Okay.
We don't know the status. We keep asking and keep being told we don't have any information yet. What we know is the supply chain disruption just leaves a lot of questions and not a lot of answers, unfortunately, at this point. We have since lost a vehicle to repairs that we can't justify spending the money to repair the vehicle, given its current condition. And so we're just hoping and waiting. We're very short on drivers right now, so it isn't, at the moment, it's not an issue, but if we're able to hire a few drivers, it will become more of a concern for us. So we're one of many agencies in the state that are in the same situation, unfortunately.
Commissioners, I would like to move forward with the matching.
I have no issues with the voucher. I'll make a motion that we approve it.
Now second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. I'll call for the vote. Commissioner Schrumpf,
Aye.
Commissioner Basinger,
Aye.
and I am an aye as well. This one just requires one signature.
Can you just email me that? Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, I'll put that on his desk.
Thank you so much.
Yep, you bet.
Thank you, Leslie.
Okay, next item on the agenda is Columbia City Connect request.
I can probably help facilitate this, but I think Nikki Keister, who is the executive director of Columbia City Connect, and Pam Cook from the museum are both here as well. I am the design chair on the board for Columbia City Connect, which is our Main Street organization. I asked them both to come as well because, so they could fill you in. But ultimately, we are working on a project that we need the county's help with. I've already talked to Mark, and he's here, and Mark's comfortable with what we need. But basically, what we've done is in collaboration with the museum as well as with our high school audiovisual department, we've created an audio downtown walking tour of downtown buildings and the history behind it. So, Chad, I know you're a little familiar with it from the presentation before, but and so the way this system works, it works on your cell phone, and but the cell phone needs beacons to send a message to start the program. And so the ask today is to be able to put one of these little beacons that are about that size on each of the 4 corners of the courthouse. And Mark and I talked about it. They're weatherproof. They have a 10-year life expectancy. It's a set it, forget it thing. I think he and I brainstormed and think we can find places where we can put these where you won't see them, but where they'll be outside and then they will work. And so, but because we're putting them on the county's courthouse, or not really putting them on, but putting them, using the courthouse for we wanted to make sure that we came in front of the board and asked for permission. And they're here also in support of that or to answer questions.
Yeah, being on the board at the museum, I had an opportunity to hear the presentation, and I'm excited for this. I think that this is a great thing for our community. So I'm fully in support of this, knowing that, is Mark here? Yeah. No, I mean, so long as you don't see any issues with this. Okay. So I'm fully supportive of it.
I have no issues. I think it's a great idea. Are you looking for an approval today?
If possible, we secured a grant funds that ultimately we're kind of at the point where we're buttoning everything up. We would love to maybe even have it before it gets cold out and be able to do a little bit of a launch. So, I mean, we can come back if need be, but if
So your only ask is to put these beacons on the 4 corners somewhere?
It is the only ask as of today. I will tell you that at some point, Columbia City Connect and probably mainly Nikki may come in front of the commissioners to ask for, at some point, some financial support a little bit, not very much, but ultimately, you know, obviously this is a city program, but Columbia City is kind of the heartbeat of our community. And we've been going through Indiana Main Street's audit process, and they're really encouraging us that we should be making those asks for at least small support from the city. Primarily supports it, but so that is not on the radar today, but it, you know, it's at some point, I think we're at least going to come ask so we can tell them we came in.
Sure.
Makes sense. But that's it for purposes of today.
I have no issues with it, so I'll make a motion allowing Columbia City Connect to put 4 beacons on the courthouse property.
Okay,
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. I'll call for the vote. Commissioner Schrumpf,
Aye.
Commissioner Basinger,
Aye.
and I am an aye as well. That was easy.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is Scott Wagner.
So I've come to a couple of you previously in private conversations about the pole barn structure request on the property at Armstrong. Initially was started with the idea of housing the trailers from emergency management and the health department so that they're not deteriorated with the weather. As we began those discussions, we also got input from the coroner's office and the maintenance department that they would also like to be inside this structure if possible. Not knowing the future development of that site, I wanted to kind of get your request or your approval to take a contractor out there. If you could tell me what side corner, where, if we can build on this property, so I can get quotes, so we can then look for funding for that. I don't know what your previous or your current ideas of the development of that property. We feel that that should be at that property. We have, before Katie got here for the highway, we talked to Brandon about the highway department area. He was no go on any of those. Where we would want it would be in areas where soil's not that great from previous excavations. So I'm just kind of getting your input and approval if you would want to pursue it further.
Yeah, so I guess in my opinion, it's just too soon. It's too early because we don't have a clearly defined plan for the ground. We're just now finalizing where the jail itself would sit. So I'm not really sure where the pole barn fits at this time. It'd be really hard to take a contractor out and say,
I knew you were
somewhere.
close, so I was asking if you had.
Yeah.
So you want to come back in a month or so, or 2 months? Can you tell me when I can come back?
Well, George, do you want to add anything or?
Well, I was just wondering, Scott, were you looking at putting the pole barn up before the jail is built, or is that what you were looking for?
On funding, if we can get funding, we're hoping to get some federal funding through the coroner's office to do this. And possibly some other grants, then that we would start possibly even just maybe the land, getting the land prepped for it. And then when the building goes, we can go for it. And this might be done in stages too.
Maybe your grant could pay for the drive-in.
Well, we could try
Right,
that.
counsel?
We could try that. I mean, we want to get them under as fast as we can. I don't foresee this being done until next year completed, but yes, probably would be done. So if you want to wait till after the jail's built, you can. We're hoping to get funding and move on it quickly.
I would agree with Chairman Banks that until we even figure out what our site plan is, we probably need to hold off on that.
So you mentioned some federal funding through the coroner's office. Do you have any timelines on those grants?
Yes, apply to them usually by the end of September, early October every year.
Okay, so we'll have to wait an entire month.
We'd have to wait another year before we.
I don't know. I know we absolutely need one, and this has been an ongoing conversation. I know we have quite a bit of equipment
just wanna
that's
be able to
out
get
in the
quotes.
weather.
If I could get a quote for the costs, then we could approach, possibly get the grant and maybe it won't start then until maybe more comfortable 6 months down the road when the grant's been given. But I need to be able to get out there and say, yeah, we're,
Sure.
because I gotta get costs. And so
I think it's a good
And you think
idea.
this building could be 100% grant funded?
I don't know about 100%. I know that it could be 80% federal grant. So it'd be a 20% match here. Grant funding here from the health department that I could possibly use. That's why I want to get a figure, what it would look like if that, this is what, if any, a local cost would be, are you in favor for it at this location? And I gotta be able to pursue it, so I gotta at least have an inkling of what you might want it, so I can get a precise cost.
Right.
I don't think there's any hurt in letting them explore it, and maybe possibly getting a number, if it won't hold up.
I mean, if nothing else, you could probably find out what kind of size you need, because you know how many trailers and trucks and mowers. Figure out how many mowers they're gonna have out there and everything else. I don't see a harm in exploring, but I would also say we're way too far ahead of
Would
ourselves.
somebody be willing to give me the current location that you've approved? That way I can maybe choose 2 locations, like in maybe the
Difficult to find
northwest
2.
area.
Yeah, it'd be difficult to find 2 locations, but
We're looking at maybe 60 by 100 right now for a pole barn size. So it'd be probably the northern property line, northwest area, farther back behind.
yep, we can let you know
Okay,
what our vision is.
okay, thank you.
Sure. Next item on the agenda, Nathan Bilger.
We're holding off on those.
So we're holding off on the whole thing?
Yep.
Okay. We'll move to Katy Fry.
Good afternoon. I have a right-of-way cut permit application for you from NIPSCO. This is right on the county line, and most of the work is being completed over on Allen County side, but it does require an open cut of the pavement. There's really nothing that would inhibit them moving forward with this project. They're going to be cutting to retire an old line and then installing a new one, but that would take place then off of our right of way and more in Allen County. So they have something underway with Allen County as well. But more or less, this is just an approval for them to open cut on 800 East. And it's almost just State Road 24. So it's pretty far south, but again, there's nothing in that location or area that would be cause of concern for them to not move forward for that. So it is our advisement that we approve it.
I have no issues with the request.
I'd make a motion that we approve.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. I'll call for the vote. Commissioner Schrumpf,
Aye.
Commissioner Basinger,
Aye.
and I as well.
And then do you have a copy of the permit or do you? Yep, I got one for you. And if the commissioners have an additional moments to run a request by you pertaining to a potential federal funding opportunity that we have. I had sent an email with kind of a recap, but it was very last minute. The deadline for the application for the fund or for the federal funding is coming up here. I believe it's September 15th. What I would be asking for is just an approval for a letter of financial commitment. It's not necessary for the application, but it's just a good supplementary document to include with our application. What this is for is it's a safe streets for all. It's through the federal government for the development of a safety action plan. This basically takes a look at our roadway systems and how to decrease roadway deaths and serious injuries that are caused on the roadway. So this is can be public safety related as far as the sheriff's department's concerned. We can work in tandem with their department, the EMA, with the highway department. But really, it's funding different studies and different things, looking around the county through different contractors or consultants that can give us more information to look at where our kind of highlighted areas are throughout the county, and kind of takes into consideration multiple voices. So the private sector, the county sector, also private citizens, to give them an opportunity to voice concerns and such. But really, it just comes up with a plan to show strategically how we plan to move forward with eliminating some of those cause and effects. So the implementation of that is later, but I'm also informed that with this particular grant, if we are awarded the funding for it, that when we have the actual plan developed, then we can actually apply for other forms of federal funding. That if we have the safety action plan, it kind of it gives us a leg up to be considered for other kind of, I guess, funding that we would not be eligible for otherwise. So the ask for the federal funding, the total would be $75,000 for the development of the safety action plan. So it would be a $15,000 commitment from Whitley County, and it's not necessarily from the commissioners. It could be kind of a conglomeration of places, but it's just saying that Whitley County overall will commit to their $15,000 contribution next year. And I think we had proposed it being divided up in quarters. So there would be 4 quarters where there would be a portion of that would be contributed. And then obviously, since it's federal funding, it's a reimbursable. So we would pay the front, everything up front, and then the federal grant would then reimburse us after the payments are made.
Where would you see the funding come from?
Really, I think it's appropriate to come from the highway department. It's appropriate to come from, if the sheriff's department has an appropriate area to contribute a portion of it to, or if the county commissioners or the county council feel that it's appropriate where they could contribute a portion of the funding as well. But really, it's suitable to come from multiple areas, but it really, I mean, it could be fully funded by the highway department if there were no other funding options available.
And what was the deadline? You said the 15th of
This
this month?
15th is the application deadline, and it's completed and ready to go. And it's not, like I said, it's not required that we have the financial commitment, but it is
helps
kind of
with
just a
scoring.
helpful, just to say that the county is dedicated to providing those funds or capable of providing those funds for the match.
Financial commitment letters, don't they normally come from council?
The financial
sure.
commitment letter for the community crossings grant came from the commissioners. If you feel it would be more appropriate to be signed by the council, I'd be more than happy to, if you wanted to give it a favorable pass to, I could take it to them tomorrow.
You're on their agenda?
I am for an alternative item, but I am on the agenda, yes.
Seems like that makes more sense.
I think so. I think it makes more sense.
See,
They'd have to appropriate those funds from somewhere, so I think that would make more sense. Commissioner Schrumpf? Do you have anything?
No, I agree. I think it's more of a council item, but I would make a motion that we give them a favorable pass.
I'll second that.
You have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing then I'll call for the vote. Commissioner Schrumpf,
Aye.
Commissioner Basinger,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the driving and vehicle use policy and take-home vehicle review approvals. So we already approved the vehicle use policy. And then it's my understanding, Cammie, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, or Jennifer, that then we asked everyone who's currently taking a vehicle home to provide justification. Is that correct? And we have those forms here. I don't know how commissioners would like to move forward at this meeting.
So obviously with inflation right now, everything's up and we've noticed that we've been spending a lot on fuel. So it was something that we want to look at. Also, we've had an increase in vehicles in the last year. So we just wanted to make sure that everyone that's taking their vehicle home actually needs to take it home. I believe did these all go to you, Chairman Banks?
Yeah, I received those today, but in our packet, we also had,
I have this, but I haven't looked
yeah,
at
we received those today.
today. Okay. It's something that we definitely need to address. Commissioner Schrumpf, I don't know if there's anything you want to add, but I definitely need more time to thoroughly look at all of the requests over before I would be able to approve or disapprove a request.
I would agree with that. We need to go over each one individually and maybe work with the department heads and make sure that it is proper for them, for each individual to take them home.
I'll make a motion that we table the request until we as commissioners have had time to thoroughly look at all of them since they just came in today.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Commissioner Schrumpf,
Aye.
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. Next item on the agenda is the solid waste interlocal agreement and resolution.
the resolution is what authorizes, the resolution should be first, what authorizes the signature. So hopefully I can kind of refresh everybody's memory on this. I think that Tiffany, you and have already signed, you guys have already signed off.
Yes, yep.
So the, we did have to amend the interlocal agreement with solid waste because of the way in which the penalty fees were matching up with the software. So that's all this did, as you guys are aware with your dual roles of also being on the solid waste board. So it has gone and gotten approved by everybody else. It needs now, the resolution needs adopted. Then ultimately that allows Chad, you to have permission to sign the interlocal. And I believe it still needs to go to solid waste then next Monday or whenever their next meeting is. I don't know what resolution.
So the resolution number is going to be 2022-009.
I do have it on my radar, what you said we needed to change it anyway at the end of the year. We'll get that back around.
And there's no issues with it, with the agreement? that
Yeah,
you can
the
see?
one now is the only change it makes is to that late fee. Everything else is the same. And it really is just a housekeeping thing because it was creating a lot of nightmares for them, so.
Yeah.
Mhm. I have no issues with it. Commissioner Schrum?
I'm for passing this.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 2022-09.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising, or no, I'm sorry, Commissioner Schrum,
Aye.
Commissioner Basinger,
Aye.
and I am an aye as well.
That resolution then authorizes Chad you to sign the.
Sure.
Just make sure you sign in both spots.
Any action needs to be taken first, or it's all taken?
The resolution.
My last name is misspelled. You don't, if it doesn't matter, this is bank and Simmons.
I can scan it to Drew. Because we have to wait for council to sign it tomorrow too, correct?
Yeah, well, if they have it.
Yeah, because it goes to them tomorrow.
Okay, next item on the agenda is certificate of authorized signers, Computershare.
Hold on a second. I think we approved the resolution, but not the interlocal. I'm sorry.
The resolution allowed for me to sign the interlocal.
Oh, okay. I apologize.
Yeah, it was a little different.
Okay.
And I can speak on behalf of that. I was contacted for, I guess now that we're getting all of these things going with possibly bonding for the county, they said, well, surprise, all we have is old commissioners and treasurer and old auditor on there. So they are requesting a
Really, really
new,
old.
yes, hasn't been done since 2012.
Okay.
So that's all this is just authorizing us as signers.
Okay.
So you need
Commissioners?
a motion to, a formal motion authorizing us as the new signers?
Yes. And Ms. K for treasurer and myself for auditor as
Okay.
well.
And this is historically how it's always been with the,
Since 2012,
Okay.
that's the,
This was 2012.
Yeah.
okay.
So has McGuire, Rethlick. It's been a while. Yeah. George, you're still there.
Yep.
I have no issues with it. It's something that we have to do. So I would make a motion that I would approve the new signers for Computershare.
And I would second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Commissioner Schrumpf,
Aye.
Commissioner Basinger,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well.
And I'll just need you guys to sign where your name is on that, if you could.
Next item on the agenda is the Whitley County Regional Sewer District.
No, this is me again. So when, initially when the countywide regional sewer district was formed, it was not formed to encompass the entire unincorporated areas of the county, which is traditionally the way it would be done. Why that was done that way, I have to ask the previous person who was doing it. But ultimately, it ended up that instead of being the whole county, it was 20 identified areas that really we had worked with Scott ultimately that we knew we were going to be tackling. And so, and then subsequent to that, the legislature has actually changed the law that makes it very simple ultimately for a sewer district at the request of the commissioners to expand their territory. So procedurally, it was a huge cost savings to kind of do it this way because you literally would have to mail notice to everybody in the county and anyway. So what this petition is asking is basically every place that is not a city, town, or that is not currently in the territory of Aqua, Indiana, or one of the city or town utilities, or a conservancy district, or the regional sewer district of Tri-Lakes, for all of those areas ultimately to be under our territory. The purpose of that is not because we are running sewer systems to every place in the county. It's just not feasible to do that. The purpose of it primarily is to be able to not have to continuously do this. We did it 6 months ago when we added 6 strips of house on County Line Road that we wanted to include. And every time it makes sense economically to capture a little bit, we'd have to keep coming back. So that's the main reason to do it. The other reason is it allows, we have kind of a hard, to qualify to be a member of the board of directors, you have to be a ratepayer, which is never going to happen because we're not, the way this system is working, we're building it and then turning it over, or you have to live within one of these defined areas, which is pretty small. It's not very many areas. And so as a result, you know, the nominee that Chad Nix, who's resigning, had made would not qualify. I think she likely would be a good candidate, and that's what sparked kind of all of this, is there was a way to work around that and ultimately to give us a bigger pool of potential members. And so that's the ask, really. We're just asking, this is the same application, just the territory is different, that we did about 6 months ago when we got a little pieces around County Line Road because of some of those made sense to go ahead and do. This is just expanding it to basically every area of the county that doesn't currently be served by another district.
Matt,
Can you go ahead? Sure.
how does that affect the other sewer districts like Tri-Lakes or Churubusco?
So, well, Tri-Lakes is a little bit different. Their territory is, is already defined, but just like this, they could come and ask that the lines be changed. And ultimately, Chad actually asked me about Troy Cedar Lake. Troy Cedar Lake is in the original petition that IDEM has already approved for the countywide sewer district. So if Tri-Lake said, hey, we really want to do Troy Cedar, then we would just file something with IDEM to release it. Because, the whole goal of the countywide sewer district is just to get rid of septics. It's not meant to be a profit center. I mean, literally, we're building it and turning it over to the utilities. And if any of these other utilities ultimately came and said, we would like to do that, we would just let them do it. That's all. And we did that already twice in Churubusco.
Okay.
And, to make it so that it cost feasible, because the sewer districts themselves have the ability to get grants. Okay, so as you guys know, we got a $5 million grant to do phase 1 of this project. Well, we can literally build it with that grant funds and then turn it over to somebody else, and it ends up keeping the cost extremely low for the people of Whitley County. That is the plan for the sewer district, is to get, it's not free money, but grant money, and then ultimately use that to build infrastructure that we then hopefully give to a treatment provider. And so because of that, the way we're doing it, there is really never going to be a ratepayer, hopefully, assuming we continue to get the grants that we think we will. So
And you
does that
said-
make sense, George?
Yeah, it does.
Yes, that was the reason why he said why they didn't include the county to begin with, because of all the other districts, the municipal towns and cities, we didn't want to say to them, hey, now you have to come ask us, if you want to expand your territory. But now that it makes sense that we need to do that, it shouldn't be too much of a difficulty just to go to the IURC and ask them, and they deny them, and they just turn it.
And we can even do it with an interlocal. We don't have to go to IURC. We're actually in the process of doing that with Churubusco, where we enter into an interlocal agreement with Churubusco that says, hey, all these around, all these properties that are in our territory that are on State Road 33 to County Line Road, we're giving them back to you. Because it makes more sense for the city to do those or the town to do those, so.
And Matt, you indicated that the homeowners were not notified of this, the
So
new ones?
when
that
an
would be included?
initial petition is filed to form a sewer district, everybody who is in the territory gets notice. There's a public hearing. That'll happen 3, 4, 5 years ago. And so I'm guessing that the reason that it didn't go that way beginning was because you'd be sending mailings to 30,000 people. And so this is not required ultimately for us to give notice to every new person that would ultimately be included. The only requirement is that the commissioners ask, and then if you ask and sign the application, we send it to IDEM and they just change it in their records. And so does that answer your question?
So I think my only issue with this is, obviously, when I came in as commissioner, there were things already going on. And I do understand that we do have some septics in the county that are an issue, but there's also some folks that get bunched in there that say, mine's okay, mine's not that old, and I really hate telling people they have to do something unless it absolutely is necessary.
I think there's a safety net for those folks, though.
Right, the state law has changed last year, and we're working through that. That may change again this next legislative session because it was badly written. But basically, there are some exemptions under the law.
And I remembered that,
Yes.
but can you
So,
remind me what they all were?
so there was exemption for land size. So under the old law, it's 10 acres, and they had to have 2 locations for septic and currently. So every review of the property, and it has to review it. The other one is if their septic system is 10 years or newer at the time it was built. Now, the law changed a little bit that, but we don't know if it's going to go back or not. There's some pressure to move that law back to the way it was. It's 10 years or newer, and it can be inspected and certified that it's working properly and not failing, then it can get an extension from the sewer board. All the exemptions are given by the sewer board, not by the health department. We would only give a recommendation or not give a recommendation. Because under the law, it can be an inspector, certified inspector, or the health department. That's why we brought that sewer ordinance to you guys, so that I could have a process so that we work that out correctly, so that we're not just whimsically going out there and saying yes or no. There is a process that they have to complete. And then lastly, it's distance to the property. So under state law, it was 300 feet to the residence itself from the sewer line. Under county law, it was 300 feet to the property line. The code changed last year, made it the 300 feet to residence, so kind of extended our ordinance. But that, again, that may change again. And so, again, they had to have a septic system on file that was working properly. So a lot of the areas that we've defined in the original 20-some locations, a lot of those go beyond any of those exemptions. There are subdivided lots that are usually 2 acres or less. They have septic systems that either are on our records or they're older than 20, 30 years. And so they really never qualified to begin with for those. And a lot of people, they don't understand the exemption, so that's why they're upset. Now, say like State Road 14, there's a couple homes that put new septic systems in within the last 10 years. When they run the sewer line down from the micropolitan area to State Lakers, they can apply for exemption and they'll be given one because they have a newer septic system, which is just fine.
So those people that are given the exception on 14, say they're septic, whenever it needs to be replaced or repaired, do they have to hook up at that point?
Under state law, yes. When their exemptions run out. beyond us.
And is all of the cost on the homeowner at that point? I would assume it
No,
would
I
be
think
because there
that
would be
the
no money in the
new law
districts.
changed a little bit of that.
Yeah, so I mean, so I can tell you, first of all, you're talking about a sewer main, and there are sewer mains that run all over this county that we have never forced connections on. So if that's what we're talking about,
I think the
they
cost would
run
be to
all,
connect to the
they run all
line
over the
with
place.
the line we are.
You know, like, from Tri-Lakes to the school, and then from the school to Loon Lake. Well, there are houses all along there. Have not as of yet been forced to
Some,
connect.
but not yet.
There's areas in the southeast part of the county. There are lines, and so, you know, whether that changes, I don't know. I'm just telling you that that's already the situation. And, but as far as the countywide sewer districts, the countywide sewer district is not going to start building sewer mains in places that there is not. The territories that we're going to serve are the same territories that are defined in there, because those are the areas where it makes financial sense, given that there is like Scott said, a cluster of homes that all have septics that are 30, 40 plus years old. It just doesn't make financial sense to do a project other than that. You'd be charging $300-400 a month for, like, you know, the one we looked at that's out in Laud. The cost was just, I mean, even though there is, what, 30 homes in
There's
Laud?
49 homes, 46 of them do not have septic system permits on file.
Yeah, I mean, they all just, I hate to tell you what happens, but I mean, there's not septic systems there, okay? And so, but it would be so expensive to run it at this point that it's not currently a project that we can even consider, because you got to run the lines so far to get there. Now, so anyway, I mean, it's not like all of a sudden there's going to be sewer lines everywhere. And the exceptions makes it so that you can get an exemption all the way to 20 years. So if you have a system that's 10 years old and you get a 20-year exemption, that's the life expectancy of a sewer system. People may say my sewer works, or my septic works, sorry, but it has exceeded its life expectancy. And so it may work, but if it were actually tested, my suspicion is that it probably doesn't. They just can't tell that it doesn't because they don't get it and investigate it.
Those homes that would be in between, would need connection after the exemptions are over, they would pay me more to run the sewer there. Those lines usually have stubs to each address. And so they would have to just run from their house to the connection. They wouldn't have any more costs initially. The time may change it. So today's cost to run to the front may be different 20 years down the road, and they need to think about that. But yes, they wouldn't have to build a new line or anything. That line is there. They just need to run to it.
And that's the way a lot of people at Tri-Lakes have dealt with it, is that because the line is there, they want to get in at the lower cost and they need a new septic. So they just say, hey, let's go ahead and connect now, as opposed to putting a new septic in and then waiting 10 years till somebody tells me I have to. A lot of those people voluntarily, along like 500 is a good example, between 9 and 109. There are multiple connections along there that were not forced. They were by choice because people didn't want to put in a new septic, or they wanted to take advantage of today's prices versus when the.
So the alternative, if we don't pass this, is just to, as we see projects that need done, then you would come back to us and ask for those to be included.
The immediate impact is that the nomination that Chad has put forward to the council to nominate can't serve, which, you know, whether, and I got to find somebody that can, which is in the struggle.
Opens up the pool.
Yeah, I can't, yes. That's the immediate. I don't think, I mean, the next project we're going to do in 2023 is in Chubusco. We are 3+ years off between a project that's not already on the table. So this really just kind of gives, at least in the immediate, see me some bigger pool of candidates to be board members.
Matt, does this require a sewer district that if they want to apply for a grant that they have to go through the regional sewer district then?
Like if Tri-Lakes wanted to apply for a grant, would they have to get our permission?
Would they have to go through the regional sewer district to do that?
No, Tri-Lakes could still, I mean, if Tri-Lakes, like, I know Troy Cedar is an area that has been talked about, if it would meet the like Okra funding requirements based on income, or if there was another area, they can do that already. We would just have to do the interlocal that said Tri-Lakes should go do the project.
Thank you.
I don't know if I can be in favor of this if we're passing it or to be able to open up the pool. And I understand what we're saying, we're having issues finding people, but if the project doesn't affect the people that we're putting on there, I don't think they have a big enough stake in it.
I mean,
So,
I mean, at some point, you know, maybe like, to use Nikki as an example, at some point sewer probably goes to her house. Probably not, because she lives in a rural area. I mean, it wouldn't make sense, but I think she would be a good candidate, but for the fact that maybe she won't ever have skin in the game, but.
and that's my issue, the skin in the game, and also just encapsulating the entire county so we can find people to put on the board. And I know that it's hard finding people because who really wants to be on a sewer board? I mean, not.
Well, the alternative, which may be a good suggestion, I see a council member or two here, is that a county elected official is a qualified board member, so. Maybe council could nominate Teresa to be on the board. There we go. I'll give you-
Or
No, I mean, that might be, ultimately, that's probably where we're gonna be
Yeah.
at, is that if, I don't know that we have identified another candidate, and
and I would be more
they may be
comfortable with that
asking one of the council members to do it.
because there's more
Because they're
accountability.
nominee, and Don Amber for a long time was the commissioner, one of the commissioner's appointment, because he's elected official.
Chairman Banks, do you have any thoughts?
I understand what you're saying, but I'm indifferent to it because I don't think it really changes anything at the end of the day. I don't think it changes districts. I don't think it changes the identified projects. So again, I'm indifferent to it, but I'd be inclined to vote for it if there were a motion.
I'd make a motion that we approve the request from the regional sewer district.
Then I'll second your motion and call for the vote unless there's any further discussion. Commissioner Trump,
Aye.
Commissioner Basinger,
Nay.
Commissioner Banks is an aye. Second signature.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the pollution policy for landfill recycle center.
Chairman, did we budget for this? I would assume that we would if it's a reoccurring expense.
Yeah, so I believe that we did, but it looks like also there's an increase. Is there an increase?
It looks like there is of a few $100s. The expiring premium's $10,686. The new one's $10,926.
That we can comfortably,
Sure, come up with.
in our budget, we can comfortably come up with a difference.
Do we need a motion for this?
I think we do.
You kind of want to explain what it is, just so people kind of understand.
Yeah, I mean, it's the pollution policy for the landfill.
Yes, the county has an old landfill that is abandoned and we have to pay an insurance policy on it for pollution control. So I don't know if many people know that we have an abandoned landfill, but we do. I'll make a motion that we approve the new premium at the $10,926.50 and take the other, I think there's about a $300 difference out of. I don't know, I haven't
think
looked.
whatever line
at
item
our
this
account.
is budgeted for can
Yeah,
cover it, so I don't think we need to,
okay.
I don't think the motion needs to include the difference. It does look like everywhere a signature is required, it just requires one.
I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
Did you just make a motion?
I think he seconded.
Oh, yeah, thanks. I got a motion and a second. I'll call for the vote. Commissioner Trump,
Aye.
Mr. Basinger,
Aye.
and I'm aye as well. Next item on the agenda is the commissioner meeting schedule.
Do you want to speak to it first on?
I mean, I had just asked Tiffany previously why we were doing it now, and you said that because it was recently brought up, you tacked it onto this agenda. I think it's too soon to do it personally, but
So if anyone remembers at the last meeting, I had stated that we should explore the option of having them at night or having at least one of them at night. So I don't know, Chairman Banks, do you have any thoughts on that?
again, I think it's too soon. Like I could see maybe trying an evening meeting, an early evening meeting once a month. But I'm curious if we do that and it doesn't achieve the goals that we wanted to achieve, what's the process then in changing for the continuing, for the remainder of the year?
When we send the schedule to the papers,
Mhm.
if you then amend the schedule, I think we just have to change.
Publish it again.
Changed it and just continue
Republish?
to be diligent about making sure that everything gets posted. So it's not a huge task. I think we could do it.
I think the goal, correct me if I'm wrong, but the goal that you're hoping to achieve is that you would open up participation for constituents to be able to attend the meetings.
Correct.
Right? And my concern with that would be that as I attend Columbia City Council or South Whitley Council, like I commonly do, when I'm frequently there, there's hardly anyone in the room. So, I mean, as much as I would love for more participation, if we do that, it also causes not a great strain, but it does cause the strain on department heads and elected officials who then have to block out time in their evening once a month to come to a meeting. And I'm aware of that. I'm thoughtful of that. So there's always the option of not coming to the meeting or watching online or any of those things. So I'm just undecided. You know, I would hope that it would achieve that goal and that more people would come, because I would love it if we could fill the room for our meetings. So it's something that I'm still considering.
I definitely see what you're saying. However, when people are interested in something on the agenda, I think they will come. I think Plan Commission, that's a really late meeting that I think no one enjoys the time, but that room is really, really full. So it's worth exploring.
Yep.
So.
Commissioner Strong?
I would have to defer to the two of you because you're the ones that are going to have to deal with it. But I would not be in favor of night meetings. I think it's been tried before, and I don't think it's really any more attendance than what the 1 o'clock meetings are.
Have we tried it, Tiffany or Matt? Is anybody aware?
Not in my tenure, but I mean, I go to tons of night meetings for other organizations, and it's my personal opinion that if people are interested, they come no matter what the time is. And that, I mean, it doesn't seem like people, fortunately, it doesn't seem like people pay attention.
Love it if they did.
Absolutely.
Or would you
And
like to
you
listen
said
to me?
it would be great if we had a full audience, as long as they were all here and
That's
not
right.
angry, it would be great.
That's right. So are we comfortable then with addressing this as we get closer to the end of the year?
Do we normally approve this in sometime in October, November?
I'd have to go
Not
back and look at the agendas. I know that it starts discussion from older meeting. It kind of starts this way, usually September, October, then it gets kind of deferred till the end of the year. So I just wanted it to be on both council and commissioner radar, that way I know I can get it advertised and everything.
Would you like me to table it until the first meeting in October or the first meeting in November?
I'd be comfortable with readdressing in November.
I'll make a motion that we table the 2023 meeting schedule until the first meeting in November.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. Commissioner Schrumpf,
Aye.
Commissioner Basinger,
Aye.
and I'm aye as well. Next item on the agenda is a facilities request. This is from the Whitley County Republican Party. And it is for the meeting room downstairs. And it would be an instructional meeting for candidates with Jessica Hockemeyer in our elections department. And I believe I heard this is an opportunity for candidates to go over forms like filing forms and campaign finance reports and that sort of thing, just a training. I think it's a great idea. Do we know, would this be opened to, would it be all candidates, Libertarian, Democrat, Republican? I think it's great.
Be great if we could make it mandatory. Because we deal with a lot of issues when people don't do what they're supposed to do.
Yep. So the date for this request would be the 14th of September this month. And it would be from 6 p.m. until 7:30 p.m.
Has Mark, has anyone spoke to you about that? I know that normally falls on you after hours facility requests. No one's spoken to you.
Typically the one holding
So I'm sorry, do you teach them how to do that? You said that the people that are using the building, they're the ones that know how to unlock our doors. Do you teach them how to do that before then? Okay. Did not know that. I'm indifferent to it.
I'd make a motion to approve the facilities request.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I'll call for the vote. Commissioner Schrumpf,
Aye.
Commissioner Basinger,
Aye.
and I'm aye as well. The next item on our agenda is payroll and accounts payable claims approval. I had a chance to review both payroll and accounts payable this morning and didn't find any issue. There were an awful lot of them, being 3 weeks between approvals, but I got through it and I didn't find any issues.
I'll make a motion that we approve payroll.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve payroll. I'll call for the vote. Commissioner Schrumpf,
Aye.
Commissioner Basinger,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well.
I'll make a motion that we approve accounts payable.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to approve accounts payable. I'll call for the vote. Commissioner Schrumpf,
Aye.
Commissioner Basinger,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. Next item on the agenda is meeting minutes. I'm going to be completely honest, I don't see it in my packet.
I don't
I
either.
didn't review it.
I probably could have sent it, sorry.
Maybe we can sit here uncomfortably and review it while everybody sits and waits, or we can just table it and approve later if you can send those by email.
Do you want to?
So I'd entertain a motion to table.
I'll make a motion that we approve, that we table the minutes until our next meeting, until we all to review them.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. I'll call for the vote. Commissioner Schrumpf,
Aye.
Commissioner Basinger,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. We'll do it next meeting. And that is the last on the agenda. I'll open up to the public. Is there anything that anybody would like to add today? Yes, sir, go ahead. Can you step forward to a microphone and introduce yourself?
I'm Richard Brooks with Blue Lake Association. We've talked with George and other individuals. We've received all our permitting for the project.
Yeah.
Just was wondering if we could get a letter of intent so we can start the project with the contractor.
That letter of intent be, what intent?
George had said that they could pay for the project out of the grant you received for infrastructure.
Okay.
Well, I think I'd like to talk about that. When we talked about that, Rich, we all had to agree on that. And I think, Teresa, we talked about that also. Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember it in detail. And we had gotten a quote and it was something around $28,000.
Yes.
Did we get a new one? Has that
I
changed?
sent one to George
Okay.
in July. It went up a little bit, not much. I think it went up, I don't have my phone.
Okay.
I think it went up like $2,000 or $3,000.
I'm the secretary of the Lake
Okay.
Association. My name is Leanne Rose. Thank you for your time. I think it went up to 33,000. It was on the minutes. But we're fully prepared to start a fundraiser for the balance. I think what we're looking for is just the letter of intent for the original quote, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I would be comfortable doing that. The funds that you're talking about are the American Rescue Plan
Yes.
funds. We are working on an ordinance with our attorney. He should have that done in the next week. I'm still okay with it. I said that I was okay with it in the beginning. I know that that's what we told you, so I want to stick with that because I know that that's what we already agreed on. So I'm fine with funding the original quote. If you guys can come up with the balance on that. So we could get you a letter of intent, I believe, after we officially pass that. Funds have been spent out of that. However, now it's emergent that we get the ordinance done. So once we do that, I would have no issues getting them a letter of intent for the original quote. George?
Yeah. Also, I remember Amy Biggs, our EMA director, was looking for grant monies for that. And I don't know if there was anything that came of that or, and I'd like to check into that also.
Okay. Is that something that you're willing to do, to speak with Amy on?
Sure.
talking with Amy, she'd given us some suggestions. I thought on our conversations on the grants that you'd already received for infrastructure for the county, that's where you were intending the money to come from. But talking with Amy, I mean, she's been very helpful with some emergency planning and all that, but some of the grants that, which down the road, you know, we can apply for a grant to repair this in concrete 50 years down the road or whatever. It's just at this point, it become an emergency. And that's why I got involved and got the permitting and got everything in place so we can at least do something to stop the flooding, you know, coming in the spring.
So if anybody remembers, the residents at Blue Lake were having a lot of issues with flooding, and the culverts collapsed, and there were a lot of issues with getting permitting from the DNR. However, you guys were very diligent. I think you contacted everybody that finally got the ball moving at the state. The reason why I'm supporting it is because it does affect so many residents, and there is public access, so all of our residents can enjoy this lake. And this has been a problem for you guys for a very, very long time. So I'm very, very happy that we're getting movement on that. And yeah, you guys are a diligent group.
Thank you.
We've got more done than I normally see. I think Senator Zay, Senator Bush,
Dave Abbott.
they all were very helpful with this as well. And yeah. So do we need a formal motion?
I think George is gonna maybe check with Amy and I think maybe it would be more appropriate for this to be an agenda item. I don't know, Commissioner Strong or Commissioner Mason, or how you feel about it, but
I'm fine with that.
I would want
I'm fine
to
with that.
involve council, especially because they'll be appropriating funds. And
Right,
so-
and we need to do our ordinance, which is what we need to do.
Right.
Yeah.
So before committing to a letter of intent, I would just want to make sure that we're dotting all of our i's and crossing our t's and doing it the most appropriate way.
Can you put that on our next agenda? Thank you.
For the next meeting.
Next meeting, 13th.
Do they need
It
to
would
be here
be-
for that?
Would be the
Not
19th.
necessarily.
19th is our next
You
meeting.
guys don't necessarily need to be here for that if you don't want to, since
Okay.
you already waited patiently this entire meeting.
Our apologies, we didn't know if we needed to be on the agenda or not.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Is there anything else that anyone would like to add today? Matt, is there anything you'd like to add?
Just a couple things that are coming up that I wanted to make sure I reminded you guys of. The interlocal agreement with the city for the Ritter agreement to share the funds on that study is, I think, getting approved by the city's Board of Works shortly. So that should be on the agenda for next month, our next meeting, as well as the agreement with the property in South Whitley, the workout on the property taxes. I emailed that to you guys again today, so you'll see it. They've made a proposal to resolve that, and that'll have to be, if we're going to take action on it, be done by the next meeting because it is in the sheriff's sale. And well, I guess we would have a meeting on October 3rd, so we could still do it then. But
So I've seen that interlocal for the Ritter study. I have no issue at all with the interlocal agreement, but the proposal itself, the scope of work, is pretty vague. And as I read it, I read it more like an implementation plan rather than a feasibility study. And I thought the intent of that was a feasibility study. I thought we were looking to see if this made sense rather than rolling it out. And I mean, I printed it out and I've highlighted some things, but I would just feel more comfortable with the scope of work being more clearly defined. So
that would be a George question, maybe. George, I don't know if
Yeah,
I didn't have anything that part of it.
yeah, I feel the same way that Chairman Banks does. Yeah, the scope of work on that was more a scope of work that was requested by Mr. Ritter. And I think the scope of work should have been determined by city and county.
would you guys like me to reach out to the mayor or their attorney to try and discuss that, or is that something that makes sense? I'm happy to do whichever, just give me a direction, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I'm at a disadvantage, right? Because I've not been able to participate in those meetings with Ritter or with the mayor. But I kind of feel like us to go back and renegotiate this with them because, I mean, I think it's really unfair that the study itself is clearly studying how to implement and not whether or not it's feasible. So I think it would be on us to go back and ask to rework the scope of work.
George, would you like me to contact the mayor, or Chairman Banks, would you like to contact the mayor?
You'd be more than welcome to.
Okay. I'll get in contact with them.
Anything else, Matt?
Nope, nothing else.
Tiffany? Commissioner Trump?
And I think,
Commissioner Basinger?
Matt just hit on what I was gonna bring up, so no.
Okay, and I have nothing to add. So I will adjourn the meeting.
So that hasn't gone in front of Board of Works yet? I'm
Didn't think
surprised.
so.
I mean, it doesn't really. I mean, I could see Marcia.
Yeah.
I love
just
Marcia.
got it.